What's up, guys? Welcome to Dangun Feveron Fever Range. This is one that really interested me whenever I saw it performed at Shmup Slam. I kind of messed around with it a little bit in the past, like whenever I first purchased Dangun Feveron, the shot trigger version, and I didn't really know the ins and outs of it, but it's actually really cool and kind of this weird like enigma in Cave's catalog. I call this like Cave's finding themselves period because they didn't. I felt like they didn't really know how they wanted to proceed in following up Dodonpachi, which is why you get games like Esperade or this or Guange. But let me explain Fever Range a little bit, especially because there's not a ton of information out there on it. And so it has you start out with a line, like right down at the bottom. That's like your safety line. You get like an auto bomb there. You automatically suck in Disco Stews. But you can enter a hidden like scoring mode if you get over 200 cyborgs before like the first part of stage 1. And that's exactly what I did. So now every time I use a bomb, it's going to like suck like Disco Stews from enemies and also like cancel the bullets into cyborgs. So in that way, it kind of turns into this weird mix of Cave and like Battle Garega. You don't get a ton of bombs throughout, like until the last stage. So like strategically suiciding is something that you need to do to be able to get your cyborg counter up. And your cyborg counter, up in the upper right, is going to be your multiplier. Each enemy is going to give you that many points, depending on how large your cyborg counter is. So making sure you're getting as many Disco Stews as possible, which is what I call little cyborg guys. I think it's cute. Is like the way to score. And in the Fever Range, opening that up to like just enormous scores based on where you bomb, who you bomb, when you bomb, and if you use an auto bomb, all it does is just keep you from dying, obviously, but it like freezes the Disco Stews in place. So there's a lot behind this game that I don't think a lot of people realize. You'll see me kind of moving super erratically. So there's 4 speed like options at the beginning of the game. The first 2 are not viable at all for playing this game if you want to do anything, even survival. I'm not used to moving so fast, so like option 2 and 3, the 2 quickest ones, are really the only ones that are viable at all, and 4 is almost too fast. I will like routinely, even on this one, run into bullets. So you move a lot more erratically in this one than you do in other Cave games, but there is a tactic where like you throw your bullets because you're faster than your own bullets in a way. So you can kind of like sway side to side, and I can't see. I ran into a bullet right there, wasted a bomb. So that's a couple thousand points right there, but we're going to try to make up for it with some just skill. But because it does get pretty crazy. Because in this mode, it also like ramps up the bullet speed the better you do. So you're throwing your bullets left and right, because I know that really comes into play like the further on you get into the game. Pearl holds the world record for this, as far as I know, at least like recorded right now. And my whole thing was trying to, if not beat him, at least get close to him. And I got close to him on the leaderboard. I think I'm like worldwide like in the 30s, and on Restart Syndrome like number 2. So I'm happy with that, especially for a week of putting in practice and playing in this. I'm very happy with that. When I get close to enemies, you'll notice that there's like a purple spark that comes up. That means that you are doing like a lot more damage. It's pretty much telling you that you are succeeding in point blanking the enemy, that you are doing a ton of damage, Um, and that, if that doesn't come up, then you're just doing normal damage. You'll see over in the gadget on the right-hand side, it says offensive power. So when that little thing comes up, that's the near offensive power. So yeah, I like the score section info over on the side that kind of tracks what you're doing. Although I played this in Tate, so I didn't have that. I did have some gadgets like the Cyborg counter in my overall score and the stage progress, but not much more than this. This is where the bombs really come into play. I'm going to wait until there's, a bunch of enemies on screen and some bullets. I got a little nervous because I've gotten so close to this. Took a purposeful death right there so I get some bombs back and use them right here. Because you really want your Cyborg counter to get up as early as possible, because then you can use that multiplier for the entire stage instead of like waiting till the end. If you get a huge multiplier at the end, it's not going to do you any good. You're just going to get the boss multiplied that way and not all these little enemies. So yeah, just using it smartly. I know that there's probably some better places I could have used it. I could have paid a little bit more attention to Pearl's replay, but I didn't just want to copy Pearl's replay like verbatim. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but it's just something I don't personally like doing. It does take me longer to clear games than the normal person, but I'm fine with that because I can engage with it a little bit more. So yeah, let's talk about this game a little bit. Let's talk about this game and Cave's weirdness during this period. So this came out, I believe, right after Dodonpachi, if not within the same year or two that like Esperade came out and Guang-A, and so Cave. In my opinion, it seemed like they really didn't know what direction they wanted to go in, so they made a bunch of like super experimental games, and I think that is their most interesting period because of that. Because they hadn't become like the Dodonpachi, studio yet. Which I love Dodonpachi. I'm not talking shit. But it was like during this time it was Mushihime-sama and Espgaluda. And this period like led into that, and that for me is the time when they were just really killing it as a company. Rising had kind of stopped doing stuff, so they didn't really have they had pretty much a monopoly on like popular bullet hell, if that makes sense. I mean, I know that there was doujins at that time, and Toho was coming up during this time, and so they had people that were giving them a run for their money, but no one really in the arcade that really was like on their tail like Rising was. They were doing like Bloody Roar and shit during this time. So I got this set up pretty much right after Shmup Slam, because I ended up playing Eden's Aegis for Shmup Slam, and it was it was the most fun I've had in a long time. But like setup wise and like getting everything good to go, it was a gigantic pain in the ass. Like I had no commentator because I had no way of commentating my own game. Like I had a headset. It sounded awful. I did not want to, like I've always had this saying that audio has to be good, video, it doesn't have to be good, but you always gotta have good audio, and the audio's trash. So, I was really worried. Mark asked me, like if I needed to find him someone. I hated to be that guy that was like, yes, please find me someone, because, I was a last minute addition, and it felt really bad to like put my problems on someone else. But luckily, the Dirty Screech, who had already commentated up at that point, came in and said he would do it, even though he knew barely anything about the game. And I'll forever be grateful to him for that. But anyways, back to what I was talking about. none of my stuff was going to work for like a streaming setup or like a talking while playing setup. So I think it was like I had already ordered like a stand-up mic, but it wasn't going to work because I like had measured it and everything. So I canceled that order and decided to go with this beautiful boom mic, which will really help when during podcasts and when I stream and everything else, because I will be kind of streaming irregularly now and then. Whenever I can find the time, just fun stuff. I don't want to really stream my practice because I believe that that'll be like miserable for other people to have to deal with. Because it's already miserable for me to have to deal with sometimes. Not all the time. Sometimes practice is fun, but I know watch me do one level over and over and over again. I can't do it like Pan. I can't make that entertaining, and maybe at some point I'll be able to make it entertaining, but. That day is not today. So I know the way Pearl dealt with these guys, he was like going around the world. I wasn't necessarily 100% comfortable doing this, so I decided to use a bomb right here. I didn't get a ton of Disco Stews, sadly, and it ended up kind of fucking me. So I'm out of bombs, so I gotta take a death somewhere, and I was really afraid that exactly what just happened would happen, where the safety line would come up. And if the safety line comes back up, you got to score again to get it to go away. Because once you kind of get in there, it's good for the rest of the game. And all you got to do is just score high enough and it'll come back. It'll disappear. But I think it's like, if you take too many deaths in a row, whether it's purposeful or not, it decides, hey, you can't handle it, I guess. And, until you gotta, prove it, prove to the game that you can. There's 3, special shots, like holding down the shot button and you get a special shot. There's homing, which, my wife loves, because it's just really easy to handle and just locks on to enemies. There's bomb, which I've noticed a lot of people that go for score will use. And then there's roll. Roll for me feels like it makes sense because it's very similar to like a charge shot or like a laser shot in the way that you kind of build it up and then release it, and it pierces, so it's really nice to use to, it just chews through bosses and big enemies, which is really nice, especially because some of these bosses have just insane patterns. I've been playing a lot of Psycho lately, and I found dealing with these bullets even harder than Psycho in some way. Although the hitbox in Psycho, I believe, is mostly the problem, because it's not that it's bad or anything. It's just a little different than what I'm used to. I wish I would have known that those guys wouldn't have given me a ton of Disco Stews, but at least their shots are, so that's good. Because really, anytime I bomb, I'm looking for 1,000 points to my Cyborg counter, and I was disappointed that it wasn't happening like it was kind of in my head here. Because if I'd gotten up to like Pearl did, about a 7,000 Disco Stew counter, it would have been over. I would have, if not scored better than him, I would have scored fairly close. But you're dodging all these bullets. I got no bombs left, so I just picked up a bomb there. But this is a criminally underplayed game, and I would love to see more people play it. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to make this video. Is this game mode is, God forbid the use of the word, but is accessible in a way. You don't have to be a fucking god to get the clear, but at the same time, you do have to put in time to get a decent score and route and put in, some hours into the game to get, to get kind of good at this mode, and I really like that. I like when it's kind of can be both. Eden's Aegis really had that, where it was like, it's not terribly hard. It's, you can clear it probably on your first try, but getting those scores, that is, the difficulty of the game. And for me, those games speak a lot to me. Yes, I do love like classically difficult games where just getting through the game is the hard part. Like Ketsui is a game that I consider that. A lot of the old arcade games are the ones that I consider that. Those are my favorites. I fucking love those. But sometimes it is nice to fire up something and know that you'll see the end, and that the fight is like high scores, right? Instead of just survival. It is nice to have kind of both. So now we got the final boss. I know it kind of snuck up on you a little quick. It is not a long game at all. I was really wanting to use this video more as a test for my new equipment, which I have one more at time of recording. I have one more podcast to release, and then I'm going to make a thank you video for 500 subscribers, and so you guys have that to look forward to. Sorry of all the vocal mistakes I've made today. I'm so tired. It's going to be coffee time after this. I can guarantee you. So almost there. Then we got the TLB afterwards. Right here, I had not beaten my PB yet. My PB was like 31 million, and so I was like, God damn it, I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna be able to do it. Luckily, I had died and the line had went away, so I can get some more fucking cyborgs here, which this is really what pushed me over the edge. And, man, it was so awesome to be able to be like, okay, well, I'm going to use my fucking bombs here and, try my best to dodge like a motherfucker and get through this. See that roll just fucking them up. So beautiful. So beautiful. I love the little girls dancing in the corner. You guys might not be able to see that because I might have it covered up with my head. But, yeah, this is just a really fun game to fuck around with. It has a ton of personality. A lot of depth. Not like, I wouldn't, say it has like the depth of a Dodonpachi or anything, but not all of them have to have that. That's one thing that's great about these games is that they're all the same, like style-wise. Like you all shoot enemies in them, right? But they're all different. And that's one thing that I go in depth in the last two pods. So I love that it says like programming by Krusty here in a second. I just imagine Krusty the Clown in a Japanese office working on this. It just always tickles me. But that is Dangun Feveron. And I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Peace.